After my self-imposed hiatus from La Bataille, I'm going to resume with a combined game of Ligny and Quatre Bras. This dual battle occurred in June 16th, 1815. This being June 10th, it's a good time to get started on this battle. Let's take a look at the maps first. So this is looking from the southeast corner, the lower right corner of Ligny, to the northwest toward Quatre Bras, way off in the distance. So this is a very large map space. These are the second edition maps, starting from the town itself along the little stream. Go to the east. This will be one area of activity when the Prussians attempt to threaten the French from their right flank. There's a ton of space in this map, extending all the way to the northeast there. See how far that is to Ligny itself. Most of the early fighting will be in this cluster of villages here, as the Prussians take position in these built-up areas for their defense. It's a very nice map. It's different from the first edition, and I think it's very attractive. If we continue to the northwest here, we're going to see the beginnings of the Quatre Bras map. Yes, that is an abomination. This is supposed to be the point where the maps join. I trimmed my first edition maps, and I regretted it right away. Didn't like defacing the map like that. I tried a crazy scheme where I was going to scan the map and trim it and overlay it. I don't know if I just don't know what to do or how to do it, but I couldn't get that to work right, so I'm going to leave the ugly looking overlay and just deal with it. If we look at the Quatre Bras map here, also second edition, it's to the northwest of Ligny. You can see it extending up to the crossroads up there, where most of the fighting is going to take place. The Allies will array themselves, loosely in this area in front of the crossroads, slowing down the French advance while their own forces advance. The crossroad itself will be pretty heavily contested once the forces arrive. Quatre Bras is more of a meeting engagement, whereas Ligny is kind of a set-piece battle. But this road here is actually the road that connects the two fields. If we were to move along it, we would see, well, a glare, but we would see Ligny off in the distance there, connecting them directly. The forces involved, basically the entire army of the north is going to be present here. Considering the two battlefields are really so close together, they are within supporting distance, so we'll see if we can make that happen during gameplay. But we have a very large guard here in 1815. And these are some really nice looking counters. I like the artwork in this second edition quite a bit. See the old guard, cavalry, artillery, mounted band. Can't go anywhere without him. And the normal line infantry corps. Fairly stout force here for the French. This is the Ligny forces. Let's take a look at the Prussians. The Prussians have 3 full corps at their disposal here. Their combined arm, infantry and cavalry. There is a 4th that did not make it to the field that day, but fought pretty effectively a couple days later at Waterloo. There's a few options in this game to allow them to arrive, but we're going to stick with the historical battle as much as possible. These are also very nice counters. these second editions. Lots of colors and badges. We do need stinking badges on our counters. This is a very nice looking counter set for the Prussians. And my organizational displays are scanned and hacked together versions of the actual one that come with the game. The only reason I do that is because I don't have the table space. The ones that come in the game are, I mean, they're virtually an entire map sheet. They're so large. I just couldn't afford that much space. So I hacked them up and squashed them into a little smaller area. Let's go and look at the Quatre Bras counters. This is the left wing of the French Army of the North. The first corps is on top. They were not used very effectively this day. But the second corps is going to be fully engaged here at Quatre Bras. There's also some cavalry from the 3rd Reserve Cavalry Corps that will get some work. And of course the Marshal Ney himself commanding the wing. This is the Allied Army of the Low Countries, another scanned and hacked up organizational display just to save space. These are the forces that will participate in the historical battle. The combined game also brings on some other forces since the game goes a little longer in the standard Quatre Bras scenario. But I forgot to scan those, so I'll just have to put those in play when they come up. Basically this is much of the 1st Corps and the Reserve Corps, and very, very little cavalry facing the French here at Quatre Bras. We'll be playing with the 5th edition of the rules that came with the Ligny game, published first time with that game. That's the 5th edition. It's sort of the successor from Clash of Arms and represents their latest rule set. It is compatible with really all other games in this entire series. This is the standard rule book, and it's gone back to the notion of specific rule books rather than baking everything into one, so that'll make it easier to use with all the other games. It was a little bit different. I took some time to try to learn it, so hopefully this will go as smoothly as I expect. We'll continue, well, I guess we'll finish this little intro after we set up the opening positions and examine the opening strategies. So let's get a look at the opening setups from high above here. We'll zoom in a moment. The east side of the field has the creek running right through the middle here, we can see it. The Prussian 3rd Corps is just beginning to assemble on the east side of the creek. See a long line of Prussians marching. That's the 2nd Corps assembling behind the town. The 1st Corps is spread out amongst the villages and the town, kind of east and a little west of the creek, basically setting up their defensive position, along with one brigade of the 2nd Corps that is facing to the west there against any potential French incursions. Pulling back, see mainly 3rd Corps with the Gerard's division attached has entered, is sizing up their target there. Back around the town we have the command staff and the escort squadrons, and we have a little bit of cavalry. That's 2 full cavalry corps, but still not a large body. You have light and medium cavalry there, dragoons and some hussars and lancers. A little closer in, we have the Prussian 3rd Corps advanced elements here. Some cavalry has moved up right here, just sort of screening the advance. We do have 1 full infantry brigade right there. A little bit of cavalry backing them up, but most importantly we have the corps leader right here on the board. That'll be very important when we start our first turn and determine our command statuses. Next we have this long line of road column troops spread out. They're comfortably far away from the French, so they're not really in any danger. But it'll be a challenge to keep them moving and get them assembled. Essentially this is going to be the reserve for the Army, the 2nd Infantry Corps. See, they are strung out all along the road right up to this point, almost directly behind the town of Ligny. Now tell me if this is cheating. We have the artillery bringing up the rear here. We can stack 3 increments of artillery in a hex, but I only have 2 increment batteries sizes. Now the setup calls for me to string the units along the road here, and they do exactly fit, but only if I sort of oddly stack. So I put 4 increments in that hex, and then 2 increments there. So I have 6 across the 2 X's. I'm just pretending that one of them is drifting back into the text behind it. If I do that, everybody fits along this road. So it's an abstraction, right? I think it works. The remainder of the 2nd Corps is north and east of the town, basically taking up positions either west or just this first reserve position here, waiting to respond when the need arises. The 1st Corps begins arrayed in front of Ligny here with this small cavalry detachment on this little height. Some artillery. They're not going to be good for much of anything except maybe a speed bump. So I often try to get them out of there and get them to more defensible position. Ligny itself has reserves behind it, and the rest of the forces currently involved in the 4th Brigade here are occupying some strong points inside the town. Now this is interesting. It's been so long since I played the game, I'm not sure if this is new to this edition, but there are kind of 2 types of hexes here in this area. Those with sort of brown roofing are considered village hexes, and those with red roofing, except for that one, are considered town. And village hexes actually do not block line of sight, whereas the towns do. And also village hexes are susceptible to fire, so we could see some real interesting things here by igniting some of the buildings and maybe causing a conflagration across the whole town. The other thing that's new to this edition is these barricades. I couldn't quite decide what to do with them. I haven't used them before, so I wasn't sure how best to employ them, but I decided to put them on the other side of the bridges here to maybe try to make them a last line of defense. Maybe these reserves can move up and occupy them and keep the French at bay. Most of the 1st Corps artillery is here on this slight height, along with some battalions of the 3rd Brigade. They are covering this area right here. Oops, sorry. There's the stream, and they're kind of covering this wide open area between the towns here to the west and Ligny here, closer on the east side. Now one thing we can see here is the combined game. So we have a gigantic stack of leaders. That is Marshal Blucher and his retinue, but he also has the Duke of Wellington visiting him there. So that is where Wellington starts, and he will move towards his own forces as the game progresses. Now this is going to be the sort of the main contest here in the beginning, simply because of the arrangement of the forces. We have elements of the 1st Corps spread out in the towns here. Oops, sorry. Or villages, I should say. Most of this is village area. 2nd and 3rd, 1st are kind of intermingled here. and they're also sporting some obscured markers for the units inside the cultivated areas. So this is where they're expecting the first attack, obviously, because we know the French are directly kind of south and west of this position. You can see Vendôme's men right there. The Third Corps. It's right at the southwest corner of the map here. This is the 7th Division of the 2nd Corps that's attached to Vendôme. So Vendôme himself is right here, so he can keep everybody in command. His 3 divisions, his cavalry, and that 7th Division. Now they are pointing directly at those Prussians in the villages we just looked at. So that is where their assault is going to fall. In the town we have the Imperial escort squadrons and Napoleon and his staff. Now they seem kind of out in the open and exposed, but that's only because this is the setup. The first turn, we're going to see the Guard join him as reinforcements. I can't remember, I think maybe the 4th Corps starts to arrive as well. Moving to the east, we have that French cavalry. That's Excelmann's 2nd Reserve Cavalry, the Dragoons. And this is Pujol, 1st Reserve Cavalry, Light Cavalry. They are arrayed in this plain in front of Ligny. Basically, they're going to be screening the arrival of the 4th Corps, but then they're going to have to deal with the Prussian 3rd Corps that's assembling. Over yonder, now personally, we would like the Prussians to come out into this open area. Good cavalry country. That stream and all those villages, very bad cavalry country. Back with the bird's eye view, we'll move to the northwest here, up the road to Quatre Bras. See, the French are down in the south, gathered up around the town, and we can see some of the forces arrayed against them are all obscured. Let's go in for a closer look there. So the French start with a light cavalry division here, and then 1 infantry division in the town, and then the big beautiful Guard light cavalry division right there to the southeast. Now the French are not permitted. Napoleon has said no to using those Guard cavalry, but there's a possibility that we can get them released. That'll come through gameplay. Looking up, you see that screen of gray obscured counters, which is the Allied force opposed to them. So looking south, we see all of these forces. Now only some of them are actually combat units. A great number of them, or twice as many, are dummy units. But the French don't know that, and that's the purpose for this little mechanic in this game. To keep the French a little unwilling to charge through this weak Allied front, which is of course historically what had happened. I mean, that they were daunted by what they didn't know in terms of the enemy's strength and were very cautious. Coming all the way back to the crossroads, we just have the Prince of Orange there, and 1 regiment, and he is a corps commander, so therefore he has a command point, and that means the Allies will be able to maneuver at the beginning of this game. Whereas the French don't have any actual command on the board. They have 1 infantry division commander who cannot, generate his own maneuver. We have the light cavalry division of the Guard, but they're probably not going to do anything because they're forbidden. That means really all they have is a possibility of initiative for this 2nd Corps light cavalry. And that's the only possibility for maneuver they will have until their leaders arrive. So that is the opening setups for this game. Now the last thing to consider is the starting time. Quatre Bras, the game itself, starts at 11:20. Ligny starts at 1 p.m. So that's... that glare is terrible. Well, I can't get rid of that right now. So that's a 5-turn difference. I think there are some special rules that allow for setting up Quatre Bras with just some extra French reinforcements sitting there and then kicking them all off at 1 p.m. But I think I'm going to go ahead and play the first 5 turns of the French and of Quatre Bras, where the French can really only try to maneuver their light cavalry. Then they'll have some reinforcements arrive, and then we'll begin the combined game at 1 p.m. We'll kick in with Ligny. And that means I'm not going to move Wellington, since he's on the Ligny battlefield, until 1 p.m. So that's how we're going to proceed. It's spring, summer here in the Northern Hemisphere. It's really hard to find time to game. Just too much to do, too nice outside, but this will probably be an entire summer's exercise. But I hope to get good play in as often as possible, certainly multiple days per week. Oh wait, I said good play? That was just a mistake. I mean good amounts of awful play as often as I can.